wanted to do this video on who I would like to see as the Batman villain in 2011, assuming it's made and assuming it comes out then. And, you know, everybody's been assuming the Riddler, either David Tennant or Johnny Depp, or Catwoman, Angelina Jolie, Penguin, Philip Seymour Hoffman. But I had a character in mind that has never been done in a film, certainly in Batman history. And it's kind of like how they did Ra's al Ghul in 2005 in Batman Begins, another character that hadn't appeared in a film before. One of the deeper comic characters. And it would be Anarky. And he's a, you know, deeper Batman villain in the sense that it deals with political philosophies and things of that nature. And I mean, a little bit of Anarchy is found in every character, but this character embraces it heavily. And what I would like to see is a character who is young, late teens, early 20s. And it's supposed to be that he was known a few years earlier as somebody with huge on conspiracy theories. He ran websites and newspaper columns, and people were hesitant to talk to him because he was such a conspiracy theorist. He'd go on these big diatribes about how the government is controlling everything, and obviously very intelligent, but out of touch with reality. But at the same time, we figure out about the character that in recent years, he's improved. He's become lighthearted. People like him, and he's improved things, and as he's leaving high school, going into college, people understand him more, they like him. And he doesn't come from a wealthy background, and that's well known. But it's supposed to be that he's found a job that's going to pay for him to go to college as long as he stays a good employee. But then, business is down in that business. It's a corporately, publicly traded company, and business is down, and almost everyone sells, and the company is falling, almost going into bankruptcy, and they simply can't afford to pay for their workers to go to college. So the deal is off, and he can't go to college, and he becomes depressed and angry, and he goes back to the conspiracy theories that he had years earlier about government corruption. And he has a little bit of the Joker in him in that, well, I'll get to that in a second. He has a little bit of a lot of villains in him. It's like they're all put into him and perfected. But he eventually falls into crime to pay for, not necessarily college, but just living. And he leaves his home. Him and his parents get into a fight. He goes back to his conspiracy theories and his columns and his websites, and people begin to dislike him again, except for a small group of people who agree with his theories. And eventually he goes into crime, and he's so intelligent and understands human psychology so well that he's able to get people to follow him, the other gangsters, maybe some of the Russians or the Italians, Maroni's guys or the Russians guys. And they follow him because they see him as a savior. They see, you know, they know that the situations they're in their lives, things are going wrong, and they understand through the way he formulates and articulates his ideas. They're so deep and philosophical about how the government is behind this, and there's so many conspiracies, that they look to him as a savior, and he, not necessarily slowly, maybe even rapidly, works his way up the chain of the crime in Gotham. And eventually it's to the point to where the Batman has to come back. But it deals with the fact that Anarky, and I would like to see a scene where he would go up to a law enforcement officer and say, because in Anarky's mind, the government are really the anarchists. They're the nutcases without order. And Anarky sees freedom and order in his own philosophy. So he'll go up to the law enforcement officer and say, you call yourselves men of order, but really you're men of insanity. You're a trickster. So I'll pull, why don't I fall into something you do? Why don't I fight fire with fire? I'm a man of order, so I'll call myself Anarky. He sees that if he calls himself the opposite of what he is, it's a way of mocking the police. Because in Anarky's mind, he's the man of order. He's up representing order by coming up with these theories, and he's so powerful that it's time for the Batman to come back. It's what the people have fallen into. And he's like Two-Face, you know, he's got pieces of Two-Face in him, in that he was once a man that was well-liked, and now he's got these conspiracy theories, and he's a gangster and a horrible person. He's got bits of Joker in that he embraces anarchy, but he's different from Two-Face in that he was never loved in a political way. I mean, in his later high school years, he was loved during his time being sane, but he was never, you know, a DA like Harvey Dent. He's like Joker in that he embraces anarchy, but he's different because Joker embraces his anarchy, and he calls it anarchy. He says to Dent, let's introduce a little anarchy. But in Anarky's mind, it's order, so he's different. And he's very intelligent and articulate, just like Jonathan Crane, but he's not a scarecrow. He doesn't look to inspire fear into people. He wants people to believe his philosophy. Obviously, in his mind, he's doing what's right. So the Batman is at a crossroads because, you know, Anarky has painted this picture, especially throughout the, you know, trying to get fledgling Gothamites to enter the world of crime by telling them. And Batman is hated by the people, except for maybe some of the higher-up people and the wealthy people who want him to come back and fight this crime. But the lower-class people who are getting by barely look to Anarky as a savior. So it's like, you know, where do we find out what's good and what's bad? There's a schism, and people are losing sight of that. And personally, I'd like to see the character Ryan Gosling play this. He did a movie in 2001 called The Believer, which a lot of people found offensive, and I understand that. I'm of Jewish heritage myself. My father's side of the family is Jewish. And it was about an Orthodox Jewish boy who grows a hatred for his own people and goes on these big, you know, speeches about how there's a conspiracy. And I mean, obviously I understand how that's offensive. And but I think if you channel that concept of the conspiracies and big talking and trying to talk sense into people about how this is true, the Ryan Gosling actor was very good at that. So I think he could play that character well. And obviously I know I'm just a kid, and Anarky probably won't happen. Maybe a third movie won't even happen. It'll probably be Depp as the Riddler. But I know that in Nolan's universe it'll be good, whatever it is. But that's my 2 cents. A lot of people had a lot of different ideas, and that was mine. I'd like to see it.